Hi guys, welcome to the third episode of our podcast, exclusively on paragliding. I'm Vishnupriya.
I'm Shubham.
And we'll be hosting today's podcast. So first of all, I'd like to introduce all our guest speakers here today. I'd like to welcome Naren sir. We all have several hobbies and interests as children. However, we fail to pursue them due to peer pressure, busy schedules, etc. It takes a lot of courage to, pursue your passion into your profession. And one among them is Naren sir. Thanks for coming here, sir. It's an honor to have
Please
you
call
here.
me Naren. Please call me Naren.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. No, no, sir.
So
We used to do something here, Naren. So if VP calls you sir again, like it's a 5 rupee fine to her. Like that's what our professors used to do in the college. So
Okay.
one sir is 5 rupees. Yeah,
sir.
let's see how you are going to become rich, Naren.
Okay.
Okay, so
Right. So
Naren is the pioneer of paragliding in Bangalore, and he's also into kayaking. So thank you once again, sir. And we also have Shankar, who is an alumni of our very own college and also an active member of the Mountaineering Club. So Shankar is also a biker and he's a mountaineer. Welcome, Shankar. So we have Amith on board, who is also an alumni of our college and a member of the club. So Amith recently finished a 10K run in 10 days. And all three of our guests here are part of the Frisbee club called as the Tatte Idli Kalsu. I think that's a really nice thing. So a really warm welcome to all of you once again, and over to Shubham.
So, hello, Naren.
hi.
So, you are one of the pioneers of aero sports in Bangalore. So, at that time, how was it starting? How difficult or how was it while you started paragliding in Bangalore?
For me, flying was, I should say, in my blood because my dad was in the Air Force and my brother too was in the Air Force. But my dad used to take me when I was a kid to all the air shows and to the Air Force stations. And he would explain a lot about airplanes and the other accessories which were on display. So I think it got into me pretty early. But the thing is, most 99% of humans want to fly. Though many don't express because of fear, but every human has this dream. I am no exception. So I too wanted to fly, but for all good things, there is a certain time when it all starts, irrespective of how much effort you put. So for me, it started when I was financially independent, and I used to go to. I'm an electrical contract. I used to do a lot of electrical contracting jobs, and one of my job was near the Lanka Airport Station. So I used to go by Jakkur and airfield to work. And I used to spend some time at Jakkur watching all these microlights flying. So it started with microlight flying. My first paragliding flying experience started with microlight flying. And myself and another good friend of mine called Jagdish, that others may know, he was also part of TIX. We started together, microlight flying and then paragliding and kayaking. He was my partner in crime. We did everything together. And yes, the sport requires you to be financially independent because it's an expensive sport. Though paragliding is the cheapest of all aero sports, it's still expensive for by Indian standards, even European standards, I guess so. So you need to be financially independent. One. Second, you should be mature enough to assume all the risks that are associated with this sport, because one judgment of error could cost your life. So it's in black and white. No need to color it up, because many people try to hide the dangers in the sport. But any mature athlete doing any kind of sport will first know the risks associated with it. And once you know the risks, then you know your boundaries. So we did that very diligently. Even when we were microlight flying, it was drilled into us that safety is very important, and we practiced that very seriously. We took it very seriously, and even till today, if I am alive and kicking, it's because of my approach towards the sport and generally approach towards my life. I'm very defensive in nature. It's good to be defensive in this kind of sports, and because it's very easy to be taken away by the thrill and do things that could be very dangerous. It's for me that helped, that quality of mind to be always doubly sure of what I do. So it helped me. And yeah, it was a long road, but I really enjoyed the journey, and I still have a long journey still left, I think. And that's the beauty of this sport, paragliding. You can fly till you can walk easily. If you can walk easily, you can definitely fly. Safety is done. That part of it I covered. But yes, my journey was hard because those days we did not have internet. Like I did not have access to internet, and those who had extremely slow internet, and we did not have much sites as easily accessible as it is now. So we had to go by print media. So I used to refer a book called Touching Cloud Base, which is like a premier coaching manual in the UK. And fortunately for me, I had very good friends in the very beginning. And we realized that reading about the subject, theoretical knowledge is super important. And we spent 1 full year reading and practicing ground school before we did our flights. So that's the key how we became very strong with our flying, is because we spent 1 full year. Not many people do that, I'm sure. And for us, we thought that until we are like cocksure about what we are doing, we do not want to get into the air. So we spent a lot of time ground handling and reading. So our ground handling practice always started with reading. So 5 of us, we had bought a paraglider, pulling in money. And then we would go to a lake bed on the outskirts. There were many lake beds on Kanakpura Road and Mysore Road. So we used to go to one of those lake beds, do a good session of reading, and then whatever we read, we practiced. And that way, we all became like quite adept with the skills that was required. But ultimately, one fine day when we went to fly, the decision to fly, actually when you go on the hill, it is very different. That feeling, I'm sure Amith and Shankar will know, despite whatever knowledge, whatever skill you have accumulated on the ground. But when the day comes to fly, there are lots of butterflies in your tummy. And fortunately for me, I had lesser butterflies compared to my friends. So I took off first and did some flying. And later on, I realized that the butterflies got more and more into the other friend's belly than mine. Because I was flying, my butterflies were disappearing. And for them, it was like just building, and they didn't want to fly. Every time we went there, they would like talk so much about flying. But once they go to the hill, they would all become quiet. And I would happily open the glider and fly away. Luckily, I got a lot of airtime that way before the others gathered their courage to fly. Very interesting journey. But the reason why our journey was safe and enjoyable was because of the amount of interest we put into safety and theoretical knowledge. And theoretical knowledge, practice, and this hard work helped us to progress in this sport. Unfortunately, all the other 4 dropped out of the sport for various reasons. One, mostly because of getting married and the pressure from their... in paragliding, there is a saying that if you don't get the spouse's clearance for you to fly, you can suffer from AIDS. And this AIDS has got nothing to do with that AIDS. This is aviation-induced divorce syndrome. So people don't fly usually after they get married because they don't get the consent of the wife. The wife will say, you're a paraglider or me. Choose what you want. And in my case, I had a lucky wife. She was adventurous. She did everything I did. And her philosophy in life is, if Naren can do something, I can also do. And I really appreciate her philosophy. And fortunately, she also followed me and started to fly, started to kayak, started to hike, cycle. Whatever I do, she does. So I have no problem with these AIDS affecting me. So it's like a very long story. I don't want to go on because I can run into the night if I keep talking about it. But the similar kind of journey awaits Shankar and Amith and whoever takes up this sport. It's terribly addictive. That much is sure. Initially, there will be moments where it can, make you think about the expenses. It can make you think about the dangers. It can make you think about various other things. But eventually, when you learn to balance everything, you can always be happy because you know something that is very unique. You have learned something that's very unique. And on any given day, weather permitting, you can go and fly. And that not many humans have this superb position. Very few who get into this sport have this amazing position to fly when they wish to. And this sport is so simple that all you need is a hill, good weather, and good landing field. And there you go. You go to the mountain, open your glider from your paraglider bag, and then fly away. So nothing can get more simpler than this. In aviation, this is the simplest form of flying. Over to Shankar and Amit for their experiences. If there's any questions, specific questions, you can ask. I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, we'll go on with Amit, his experience with paragliding, how he got introduced to paragliding.
Sure. So I think as Naren also mentioned, paragliding is something like already termed as an extreme adventure sport where you won't be thinking about it as a now or never concept. So if not now, it's just maybe tomorrow. So that's the kind of approach even what you have to have in paragliding. So before talking about all that, so I want to talk about my stint in aerosports and how I got introduced to paragliding. I think it was during my second semester with BMS College, where Mountaineering Club had this parasailing activity, wherein this activity happened in one of the lake beds near Tumkur Road. And it was this activity where you had a jeep, and then the jeep was tied to a huge, a big rope, and then you had a big parasail on which when the jeep pulls you from there, like you take a lift and then you come down. So this probably this flight was not more than a few seconds, but that was something which I cherished a lot and was the first time I was on air with a parasail or a glider behind me. So after all these things, just a few years back, um, I met Naren in one of the frisbee sessions where he used to um, throw the frisbee in very unique skills. And it was very interesting to see the way how we used to explain how you throw a disc and involve so much of science and physics, and how the uh, frisbee behaves as a wing, and how it gets affected by the uh, air basically while you're throwing it. So all these things like intrigued me more, and that's when I got to know that Naren was someone who was into paragliding. And right after that, I think me and Shankar, we were very much interested to know more about like how he does all these activities, and we were really interested to see how he glides on the air using a paraglider and everything. So with all that, I think there was this one time where his friend Jagdish, which Naren was mentioning about. So they took us to one place near Kanakpura Road, where they said we are going to have a paragliding activity today. It would be great if you guys could join, and maybe we could just play a game of frisbee, and then if you can have a look of how this whole paragliding thing happens. And then finally we go to that place. There was this like, as Naren mentioned, all you needed was just a hill and a glider with you to start this activity. So we climbed a small hill, which was not big. Probably I would say the twice the size of the Lalbagh hillock, or maybe three times more than that. And from there, Naren opens up a bag, which was like pretty much bigger than a MC sack what we have in our room. And he opens up this huge glider with all this body harness and lot of strings and wires which was attached to the harness and the wing. And then funnily, like he gears up, puts his helmet, gloves, and everything on him, and he also carries a water bottle with him. for me, I had this question: why are you carrying a water bottle? Because from a hill, like it would probably be a minute of a flight time for you. Because the idea where I came from was from parasailing, where you just go up and all the time. It's a glider. You basically come down all the time from a hill. And Naren jovially said that, "Hey, ಮೇಲ್ ಹೋದಾಗ ಬಾಯಾರಿಕೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಕಣೋ." I thought he was kidding, and then all of us were like just standing behind him while he was about to take off. He pulls the risers of the glider, and then the whole wing takes up above him, and then off he shoots on from that hill. And then we see, like, funnily, like, he's always climbing the altitude, and after just a few seconds he just vanishes somewhere in thin air. We're like, what's happening? How did he reach, like, on top of hill? The glider has to always come down. And then, like, these were the things where for us, I think for me and Shankar also, which intrigued more to know more about this paragliding and how this whole thing happens. And then Naren started to talk more about the thermal hotspots and other things for which helped him to take that flight. And from then on, I think I became really interested to know more about the sport. And after that, myself, Shankar, and a few others were like behind Naren all the time. ನರೇನ್ ನೀವು ಪ್ಯಾರಾಗ್ಲೈಡಿಂಗ್ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ಲೇಬೇಕು, ಯಾವಾಗ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಯಾವಾಗ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ. And then, like, predominantly all these courses happen during this particular seasons in the year, and while that particular time frame suits in that particular landscape. And accordingly, he gave a timeline to us, and we were almost ready to have this course or an activity with Naren, me, Shankar, and few others. But unfortunately, that didn't happen then. But I was lucky to start have this course in a place called Bir. Bir Billing is a very famous place in India, wherein I was lucky enough also to get participating there for a course to get as a certified pilot. And I took this opportunity at the right time of my life, where I had a switch in my career, and somehow everything was fitting to my capabilities to pursue this as a course in paragliding. So I think, yeah, that's how I started my stint with paragliding.
Great. What do you, Shankar?
Okay. So for me, adventure, it started from Mountaineering Club in our college itself. So after doing some climbing and climbing in our college and outdoors near Kurali and all, that's when I realized, okay, there's more other adventures as well. And I wanted to, for me, the basic thing was that I wanted to almost all the adventures which involve sky, water, and on land. So one of those activities for me in air was paragliding. So I used to search or research a lot on that, and I used to just think on, okay, let me plan someday that I'll be doing a course, or I'll be taking a first flight from top of a hill. So once what happened, like Amith said, we got to know about Naren through our Frisbee community, and that's where Naren took us to a small hill to give us a small session. So we were having a talk regarding this session that Naren was about to give us, and so we some 5 to 6 of us. So all of us were interested, and we went to that hill near Kanakpura range, and that's where, as Amit explained, that's where we got to know a small. That's where we got a little idea about what paragliding is and how you take off, and but we didn't have that feel how it will be when you take off from a hill. So we wanted to feel that adventure. So from after that flight that Naren had over there, then we started inquiring on a course with him. But due to some since he was not available at some particular times, or we were not available at some particular time.
Yes, it was an
Hey,
unfortunate situation. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
supposed to come back from Himachal, Uttarakhand actually, and continue with your
Yeah.
course, but then I twisted my knee there. I had a freak knee injury, and I couldn't come back and do that for you guys. But it's
No,
good
no,
that
Naren, this
eventually.
was a different situation. This was later, but the first time when we inquired, I think Shankar was not able to
No, no.
join us.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, that was the second time. Okay, the
Nepata.
first time I wasn't available. Second time when we all were ready and Naren, he had an
Yeah,
injury
I
on his
had
leg.
to. Yeah.
Yeah. So after that, we were like, okay, we have to do some of the course because we had the time at that particular time we had the time to do some course or something. So what we decided, we checked on other. Someone told us, oh, yeah, Balaji. So Balaji, aka Balls. So he was inquiring on paragliding, and he told me. So we five of us in our same gang. So we are thinking of doing a paragliding course. So would you be interested in? So since when it comes to an adventure, and that too when we are just passed out from the college, or when we are in college, it's hard to get some people to do the same particular course or same particular adventure. So when someone tells that I'm going to do an adventure, something like this, would you be interested in? So that's when I would try to pitch in there directly. So without checking on the cost or anything, I gave him a confirmation even without checking where the course is going to be conducted or who all are going to come. So everything was set, and what happened was he told it would be some 5 to 6 of us. So when we booked the tickets and everything, that's when I got to know that it was only me and him. So others who all had given the names that okay, we all will be going for the course. All of them had stepped back, and it was only me and him, and we didn't want to uh, lose this opportunity as well, because it's hard to get time and all the things set for doing a course like this. And so we started. We what we thought was okay. Let's go with this and let's do the course. It'll be fun. There'll be a lot of other people as well, and it'll be good to know other people than going with the same gang. So as Amit said, even I did the course in institute called as Gurukul. So it's in Bir Billing in Himachal Pradesh. So that's where we did our course, and that's how I got into this sport, and I did my course over there. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, Naren, you are also an instructor, right? So,
Yes.
what are the physical and mental requirements you want to see in your student, or anyone who wants to become a paraglider? What are the things you want them to have to become a paraglider?
First and foremost is interest to fly. They should have a burning desire to fly. And second, they should be physically fit in the sense they should be easily able to climb up a hill and then endure the climb. Because when you start to fly, it's 90% physical, 10% mental. But as you progress and you come past the intermediate level, it becomes 90% mental, 10% physical. So this big switch happens down your flying career. Initially, it is very physical. So you need to be physically fit. And then first thing is you must have the desire to fly, then physically fit, and financially, like you should be able to afford it, because it is expensive. Whatever is the cost is expensive by Indian standards. And fourth, you should be able to assume the risks that are involved in it, because if you have a family that is not supportive of your activities, especially adventure sports, it's not good to get in, because you never want to do anything against the wishes of your family. You must make sure that you get a green signal from there, because they are totally unaware of what consequences their son or daughter is going to face, because they should be very clear about it. And then you must have a lot of patience. Patience is key in this sport. To be safe, you need to be like really patient, because there is a time to fly and there is a time not to fly. And knowing when to fly is key. And for that, you need patience and understanding the sport. People who have time, because this sport is aviation, serious aviation, you've got to have time dedicated to learning it. So you have to have time for practical practice, and then also for theoretical study. Because without theoretical study, if you just practice, you have a big gray area that can put you in danger. So you have to make sure that you have good theoretical foundation, and upon that foundation, you should put your practice. So once you develop these two together in this fashion, then you've got to be safe. So yeah, you desire to fly and your fitness, reasonable fitness, and you should have the financial capability. Then you should have time, and yes, and the consent of people at home. If you are dependent on them, you should have that. And if you have all this, you're sure to get addicted in this sport, and that's it. There's no going back after that. It's called para-addicted, and always at the back of your mind, you'll be thinking of this. Like so right now, it's like monsoon, non-flyable season. But what keeps all paragliders happy is that they know that this monsoon is going to last only for another couple of months, maybe end of September. And then from then on, it's our time. We get to fly again. So it teaches us patience. During monsoon, we develop patience. And then once the season starts, it's the time to enjoy. So yeah, paragliding is heavily addictive sport. So which is why if people have a very weak attitude, then they can get totally sucked into the sport and then ruin their careers. That can also happen. I've seen that happen in some people. They ruin their relationship with their girlfriends. They ruin their relationship with their family. They've lost their jobs because they get carried away by the sport because of its addictive nature. But there you need to know that, yeah, the sport is a sport. So you should do the sport when it allows you to do it. So for some people, they can do it around the year. Some can do it only on certain weeks during the season. And some can do probably a few weeks only during the whole season. So it depends on each one, and you should do it accordingly. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so moving on, Amith, I've read your blog. So you have mentioned everything, your experience, your training. So let's start by how was your training like?
Yeah, sure. So before my training, also to continue with what Naren also mentioned. So I think predominantly on the theoretical skills, I think it gives a very much higher edge for you mechanical engineers, wherein you guys already know about concepts and subjects like fluid dynamics, heat, ATD, BTD, and all those subjects wherein you can ace well in your paragliding courses. I was just kidding, guys. So that's not the theoretical thing, as in just mugging up a few. Yeah, Naren?
Any knowledge is good. So if you come with a clean plate and you're open to learn, nothing like it. But if you already have some knowledge, it's an advantage to you. It helps you to accelerate faster.
True. So what happened to me then, Naren, was a few of the assumptions or a few of the applications what we learned in our curriculum, right? So it was very challenging to understand the way how it's applied practically in the nature. So that was something very fascinating, which also paragliding taught me how to apply what you learned. So
Correct.
it was nice. Yeah. So yeah,
Yes.
going back to your question, Shubham. So on this training, I would say again, like me and Shankar, we went to this particular institute in Birbiling. So this is a village very close to Dharamshala, and it's actually the second highest paragliding place in the world altogether. So that gave us all the more interest to have this particular course at this institute. And with this, I think this course was for more than around 2 to 3 weeks, and it had three courses, P1, P2, and P3, wherein when you are completing your third course, that is P3, you will be termed as a certified pilot, like a license to fly anywhere else with your own paraglider. So that's about the what you get from the course. And as I mentioned, the number of days won't be very well defined. I would say it may go plus one or minus 1 days based on the weather conditions where you when you join the course. And predominantly, I did this course in the month of April. and that's not the right or the ideal season for a person to also learn this course, because the wind conditions during this month in the particular landscape in Himalayas, bear building is not the right conditions to for a person to join be participating in the course. So ideally October to December, right, Naren? So that would be the right time frame
Yes.
for
Yeah.
someone to um, participate this as a course and learn paragliding as a skill. But yeah, with that, more challenges gave me more to polish my skills better. So about the starting few days, how it works out is, as Naren mentioned, the first few days was completely called as ground handling, wherein we get introduced to these particular equipments: the glider, the body harness, the helmet, and all the instruments which is part of the paragliding flight. And we get to understand how all these particular equipments are used during the takeoff, and how to read the wind. And basically these are the very much important skills which a pilot who is paragliding needs to understand. And the initial part of the course was very challenging, I would say, where we had to wear a body harness, and also this glider behind us, and keep running and practice this takeoff routine, which is very much process oriented to you. And this had to happen almost around 20 to 30 times in a particular day, wherein the whole equipment itself would cost you probably around 15 to 20 kgs. So that was the initial part of the days of the course would be really tiring, where the ultimate aim here is to understand procedure for takeoff, and ultimately how it becomes a muscle memory to you. So when you are on the top of a hill where you are going to take off, so no matter what the wind conditions are. Hi Tara.
Hi.
Hello.
Live, okay.
Yeah. Zoom.
Yeah. So we are just talking about our course, our paragliding course, and everything. Awesome. Nice to see you. Yeah. So
Go on, Amith. Go on.
yeah. So I was talking about my experience at Birbilling in the PG Gurukul Institute, Tara. So yeah, I was mentioning about this ground handling where it was physically required a lot of hard work. And incidentally, my instructor there was also a taskmaster, probably a Josephite. And when I talked to him that I did my PO in Christ, so I thought he had to bring out all his rivalry with Christ and Josephite PO.
So sad.
He became more challenging to me. But yeah, that proved me good on the longer run. And yeah, the first few days was about all this ground handling, learning how to take off with a glider, and understanding how you navigate the glider in the initial few steps, and during the different conditions with pitch, yaw, and other kind of influences which roll influences which happens to the glider, and how to correct those. So with all that which happened on the initial few days, so the first part of the day was all this ground handling activity. The second half was completely on your theory, wherein we used to understand what exactly is the physics behind this whole concept of paragliding. So these theories are not like what we learn in the engineering. It's purely on the application level, where they don't where they would be talking more about the dynamics of the wing, and also making you understand how to read the weather, the wind conditions, and also how do you read the clouds, and basically get an understanding of all the variables involved in paragliding. So that's about the theory sessions. So after these things, then I think you'll be finally going on to this top of a hill called a place called Billing, which is almost an hour and a half drive from this village Bear, and that's where you take the first flight. So yeah, that's
Amit,
how my first part of the course went. Shankara.
before building, you didn't go for the small
Uh,
hill.
Oh yeah. So ಅದು edit ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಮಾತಾಡುವಾಗ. So yeah, so after this ground handling and before going to this place called Billing, so we went to a place called Dilu. It's like a trailer before this big movie. And there we learn how to literally take off from top of a hill, and how you read the wind conditions, how you navigate the paraglider, and ultimately land. So this happens again for the next 2 to 3 days, I would say, at the small hill called Dilu, almost the size of, probably twice the size of Lalbagh hill, I would say. So there, that's when you understand how you literally feel when you're trusting your glider and having that first flight, I would say. But then again, having said this, all this was just like a trailer before going to this place called Billing. So yeah, that was about Dilu Hill, and where we had to learn a lot more skills there. And yeah, finally we went to this place Billing, and that's when your P3 part of the curriculum starts. So all this ground handling and your paragliding skills at Dilu Hill is part of your P1 and P2 course. And now the next part of the activity is part of your P3 course. So here in P3, what happens is you take flight from this place called Billing, which again, as I said before, this is the second highest place where you can take off using a paraglider. Or yeah, that's about Billing, and it's almost an hour and a half drive from this village where you start to where you learn all this ground handling skills. So to talk about more detail about this Billing and also the first flight, what happened. So the first thing you see is once you are at the takeoff place, which is surrounded by so many small ranges of the Himalayas, and in the backdrop again you have all the snow-clad mountains. So luckily, when I had been there in the month of March, April, the mountains were still having snow, and that gave me all the good vibes and good feels for me to take my first flight. And when you the instructor asked me to identify where the landing area is. That is the village Bir, which was almost a 1 hour and a half drive from this place. And literally, I was not able to recognize where this place was. And I would say, like, when the instructor started to point it out to me, I was like, it was just this small, like almost the size of a pen, the head of the pen. So something like that. It was almost like a dot while you are seeing your landing area from this place Billing, and that gave me all the butterflies what Naren was talking about. So I think all his butterflies got migrated to my stomach. So with that, I think it was almost the leap of faith, I would say, which you wanted to trust your wings and all the learnings which you learned in the all the ground handling things. And that's when I understood, like, even with all the fear and even with so much of anxiety I had at that spot, so I got this process inculcated to me as a muscle memory so well of what I learned during those ground handling. Unconsciously, I took that process, like all the release and damp, pull, whatever, which needs to happen, and the takeoff in those few seconds just happened, no matter what emotion I had. So that's when I think I understood, if you just follow the process, what is mentioned, no matter what your emotions are, you will be able to do a good job ultimately. So that's when I took off, and oh my God, all the things, like all the rivers, streams, the snow-clad mountains, the houses starts looking at you in such small images, and you get to look at this in a very different dimension altogether. It's not that similar thing where you look out of the window while you're sitting on a plane and you see a few clouds or a few houses down there. It's just not that. It's almost like you're literally flying in a very different dimension where a person who glides using a paraglider could only experience that feeling. So I had that really good first flight for me, and ultimately, yeah, I think a very important thing to be noticed here is how we communicate with with the instructor while we are mid-flight. So basically, we'll be carrying a walkie-talkies with us, and then there's this instructor right somewhere 15 to 20 kilometers out there in the landing area, who communicates to you with your initial flights: take left, take right, go, speed up, use this grabbing motion, and all those things. So with all that, the first initial flights would be very much scrutinized by the instructors. So, and then that was your first flight. And as a part of the curriculum, what happens later for the next 5 takeoffs from this place billing is you need to understand how to handle a glider in a particular situation. So that's when you would be given certain tasks at each particular flight. And for the second flight, basically, you need to do a certain maneuvers where you have to deliberately deflate the wing at one particular section, and then you need to recover that. And you need to on the next drill, you need to make intentionally make those pitch, yaw, and roll movements, and try to come out of it. So these kind of drills or scenarios would be induced to us, and also make us sure that how we have to come out of it. So I think these are the scenarios where when you hit a thermal or a probably a turbulence wind. So when it comes out mid-flight, so how do you come out of it when your wing deflates, or when you have to like abruptly decrease your altitude? What are the different things which you need to do? So those kind of maneuvers you will be learning in the next 5 to 6 takeoffs from this place called Willing. So I think that's more about how this whole course is structured. And luckily, in the next, the last flight for me, I was lucky enough where the instructor was also confident on me, and the way how the drills and the flights were happening with me. He made me catch a thermal. As in not exactly a thermal but a ridge lift, I would say. As in to simplify this, what happens is when you have a mountain, and this not the rich part of it, the steeper part of it. So when the wind hits the steeper part of the mountain, it goes up. So basically the instructor asked me to go towards that part of the wind wherein the lift happens at the ridge of the mountain. So that was a very tremendous experience for me, wherein I talked to you about what Naren did, right? When I saw the first flight where Naren was catching up altitude, and he was gaining altitude. So that similar experience happened to me, where I was really happy to experience that on the last flight of my course. And I think, yeah, that's how my P1, P2, and P3 course ended. So apart from this, all the paragliding things physically and all these things, we also had to give out a few exams, few MCQs, where we wanted to demonstrate how well we grasp the concepts of reading the weather conditions, different fronts, and how we understand the clouds, the physics of paragliding. So again, we are given a few small tests wherein we had to pass those tests, and with all that, you will be certified with these 3 courses. So I think, yeah, that was a short brief on my paragliding thing.
Amazing.
Okay, so moving on, Shankar, what was your family's reaction about you taking up the sport?
Actually, they didn't know that I was
ಹೇಳಿದ
going for this
ಮನೇಲಿ.
sport. So usually when I try out any adventure, I don't inform at my home. So only when I'm done with the adventure and after 1 month or something, that's when I inform at my home.
Okay. So
Amit, even if you
That
had to
that's
go,
not right. Kalro, Kalnan Maklu.
ಜೂನಿಯರ್ಸ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲ ಫಾಲೋ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಡ.
Thing is that my
Yeah,
parents are
you should
supportive.
always get family's consent, man.
Yeah,
You just
the thing is that Hmm. Yeah, the thing is that I know my
remember
family
one
supports
thing,
when
that if you don't inform, what kind of shock they will be in.
Hmm.
Alva, that's why. You should never always keep them in the light. Let them know what you're doing.
Hmm. So the
The
thing is,
benefit is you will also get their blessing.
Hmm. Okay.
Of course, when you
So
go
the thing
out on dates, you don't have to tell.
Even
that
if
is
that
also
is
adventure sport, okay?
adventurous, yeah.
That is also adventure sport. You have to sign a waiver. Anything can happen, and I'm not responsible for it.
what was the
Okay,
reaction
go
after
ahead,
you
Shankar.
told them?
Okay, so coming to the thing, why I don't inform at my place at my home is that at the starting I know that there'll be a few adults wherein they'll be too concerned about my about what would happen to me when I pursue any adventure sport. It might be biking or any climbing or any other adventure sport. So I know they are supportive, but at the time when I'm gone for any sport, I don't want to give them any tension or any fear that okay, is there? Should I call him now? Thing is, it had happened in the starting when I taken some other sport before all this paragliding and other courses. So when I had informed about a course, I would get calls every once in the morning, once in the evening to check if I'm all right or not, and there'll be a fear in them. But they know that I'll be safe, or if anything happens, also there'll be some minor injuries, not major. So I didn't want to give them attention or any fear when I've gone for any adventure. But I make sure that whatever adventure that I've done, I inform them later when I'm done with the course. And once they get to know, yeah, when they get to know, yes, they'll definitely scold on that I should have informed at the starting itself. But when I show them the pictures and how I conquered the adventures and how it was for me to do the adventure, they'll be a lot more happier when I come and tell after the sport.
also maybe the
Hey,
reason might be
Shankar.
like
Continue.
in the first episode, if you guys have seen, like we have heard a lot about Shankar, coming injured to his home, or else sometimes coming home and that too coming injured. So that
Yeah.
may be the reason, you should have given them the, how do you say this, how do I tell, the safe, like they should know that you are safe
Exactly.
if you
Take
go.
your parents'
Yeah.
consent before doing any adventure sport. Shankar, learn from your juniors. And also,
Yeah.
the first time we missed doing paragliding with Naren was because of something like this, something such which happened to Shankar also. So
Girlfriend
taking that
approval.
to a different discussion altogether.
And Amit,
No,
girlfriend
not
approval.
no, Naren, something
Girlfriend
else
alla Naren. Bike ride ಹೋಗಿದ್ವಿ
regarding
ಅಲ್ವಾ?
my
So
Oh, finger,
me
you
and
are right.
Shankar were on a
ear mirror.
bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when we actually wanted to do the course, but then it got shifted because of that incident.
Cool.
So
Yeah, with
Amit,
all
what
that,
about
what
you?
Shankar said. Yeah, so for me, I think I also like as also Shankar mentioned initially. I all probably even I used to think about telling to my parents in the last moment. So this was what I used to do. So instead of telling them before, like 3 to 4 days before going for any trek, I used to tell them on that day. And when I used to pack my bag, I think my mom always used to ask me, "Hey, hello, Tivio," and I used to say, "Okay, trek ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೀನಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ." And then it's just that only half an hour where I packed my bag, and before going to the bus stand, all the yelling and all those things happen. So that's the strategy what I have. Before
What strategies you guys have done?
informing.
Amazing. Amazing strategies.
These are probably all the problems of every mountaineering club member.
Yeah.
No, because in India, the thing is, we are all brought up in a very conservative way.
Yeah.
And other than going to school, they think that anything else is dangerous. And obviously, they will be very scared when you say that you're going rock climbing or paragliding, or because they won't have heard those words before, and for them it will be quite scary. But nevertheless, you should inform and just enlighten them about it. But they should have that confidence that you are matured enough to take care of yourself. You should drive that point to them very clearly. Then they will also be happy. Oh, my son or daughter is like doing something in a very matured way. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಆ ಮೆಚುರಿಟಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅವಾಗ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಆಹಾ ಇದು ಈ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ. So you should let them know. And then when you come back, they're very happy. And that is like your license for your next adventure. So you got your clearance already from your parents. But never ever show them fail videos. Whether
that's true, Naren. I think for me also, like this paragliding course, like it took me it was a hard time for me to ultimately convince my parents. But then once I started to share all the videos to Naren and also to my sister, so they were like really happy when they saw me taking that first flight. And then I always used to communicate to Naren when I finished the flight and take his feedback and get his thoughts. And yeah, it was a very good experience sharing it to your family and friends during that whole activity also.